Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you the beginning of my little butterfly journal that I plan on working on for the remainder of the month and maybe into May, I'm not really sure. Peg Robinson and I have been live streaming twice a week because everyone is at home and needing entertainment over on the Joy of Sharing LIVEstream channel. And so this is the speed up and voiceover version of what we did today on Monday. We had talked about doing a butterfly journal, just a little handmade journal that all the pages are about butterflies and transformation and you know all that type of stuff to do with butterflies. And people thought it was a good idea. And so today we were planning on working with our art sprays. And so we decided that we could combine making the journal and getting started with that project with the use of art sprays. So that's really what we were doing was messing around with all the different art sprays. Both Peg and I have a large amount of these sprays in all different brands. We were trying out different brands to see how it went. And the first thing that I did, and I did some of this before the show ever started, was I used some stencils with some white gesso on my pages to do a resist. I like to create a pattern this way by just using white gesso, or you could do it also with matte medium. You could even do it with embossing. If you used clear embossing powder and clear embossing ink through your stencil, it would do the same thing. But white gesso, it gives a subtle pattern, and so I'm showing some of that to start out with, and the sprays that I'm using at the moment are distress sprays. I went through a whole gamut of all different types of sprays. I think Peg only used maybe two different types, maybe three, but I used a lot of different ones because I just have a ton. I don't know why I have so many. And I think what started this idea that we should get out our sprays and do a show with sprays is because I said I was thinking about ordering some of those new glossy sprays that Dina Wakley has come out with because they seem to have a resist property to them, and she's been doing live streams every day on Facebook, and I keep seeing her using her products. Of course, she's going to do that because she wants to sell her products. But I have just been fascinated with how those sprays interact with each other. But do I need more sprays? Really? So that's how come we decided to do this show about sprays. So I have uh, I have on the left-hand corner upper there, you can see those are homemade sprays made with alcohol. And I like those. It's alcohol and reinkers or alcohol inks in the spray bottles. They don't clog. Alcohol doesn't clog. So I think that everyone should be making their sprays with alcohol, but they don't smell good. It gives off an odor. So I have maybe 6 colors or something that I made at one point. Just rubbing alcohol in a little, those are probably maybe 2 ounce or 1 ounce spray bottles, and then dripping in reinker from the archival inks, or dripping in alcohol ink to dilute it and make the spray. So I'm using some of those. I'm using Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist, Tattered Angels Chalkboard, Tattered Angels, uh, what are the ones called? Baseboard, which is like a flat spray with no mica or anything. Some of the ones I'm using have mica. I also got out my permanent sprays. Um, I have some Marabou art sprays, and I have some Deco Art Media art sprays. Both of those are acrylic sprays, and so they are permanent once dry. But a lot of those wouldn't spray. They were dried up. A lot of my sprays would not spray, and I wasn't going to sit around and mess with them on the screen. I probably have, I don't know, maybe 50 different little bottles, little spray bottles. So I'm still messing around with some resist here because I can see that I've got the Celtic mask right there. But um, I'm also using stencils. All the stencils I use today are from Stencil Girl products, and it's stencilgirlproducts.com. You can just go over there. They have hundreds of awesome stencils designed by artists, and they're really great for using in your mixed media. I'm a loyalist now. You know, I have some other stencils. I'm not going to say I have only Stencil Girl stencils because I have some that I've made. I have some that other companies have made, but I really have found that I love the Stencil Girl ones and I use them more than anything else because of the designs, because they fit in so well with what I do with mixed media. They make great layers, they make great visual texture. So I am using some stencils, and some of these resists are with stencils, of course. I don't know about what I'm talking about there. Of course, this is recorded from a live stream, so sometimes we're talking or answering questions, and I don't remember what it was. I'm just showing you some of the pages that I made. I I personally, this is my personal preference, I like to have art journals that have color on the pages already. I often will make my art journals out of gel prints. Um, and then this is just, you know, another way to add color and pattern to a page before you make it into a journal. And then I can change as much of that color as I want. I can add more pattern. I could even add more colors, but just looking at a page that has color on it already makes me a lot more happy than a white blank page that I have to start out from, you know, the very, very, very beginning and do it. So this is a good way for me to make a little journal. And this journal is small, by the way. It's not. It's probably 3.5 by 5, or maybe 3.5 by 4.5, something like that. I did measure it at some point. Here I was showing that if you buy white stickers, you can change the color with sprays. That's something I used to do all the time back in my scrapbooking days because I wasn't really as concerned with uh, things. I was more concerned with archival quality and color than I was concerned about whether or not these things were waterproof because I wasn't planning on getting my scrapbooks wet. These days, now that I do mixed media and I layer all my colors on top of each other and all that, I'm a lot more concerned about the permanence of the spray and whether or not I'm going to need to seal it. That's much more concerning to me than anything else about the spray nowadays. And most of my sprays are not permanent. Just the Marabou art spray and the Deco Art media sprays are the only ones that I. Oh, and of course the alcohol, the ones that I made myself with alcohol ink or reinkers. Those are permanent. They don't run if you get water over them. But all these other ones, the Tattered Angels ones, I think at some point I used a dilution. I used distress sprays. Oh, I may have even thrown in a couple Heidi Swap, maybe. I don't know exactly, but I got out every single spray that I have. And I'm just going through, and if it will spray, I will spray with it. If it won't spray, I put it back in the box. At some point, I'm going to have to go through and figure out what to do about all those ones that won't spray. Um, it frustrates me. I spend, you know, when I'm trying to use sprays, I spend a lot of time unclogging them or soaking them. Or here I was just showing, you know, if you really love a color and you really want to use it and the stupid thing won't spray, just sponge it. So I just dumped some on my palette paper and then use a sponge dauber to pick up that color and go over the stencil with it that way. So you can definitely use them. You can also use them as watercolors, fluid watercolor, and pick them up with a brush and paint things with them. I mean, they're not useless if the spray doesn't work, but I get very frustrated when the sprayer won't work. That just makes me so annoyed. So that's another reason why I can't figure out why I think I need to order more sprays and get the Dina Wakley ones. I just want to find out what the property, you know, what's different about them. That's the reason that I have some distress sprays, even though I didn't need distress sprays. I wanted to try them when they came out a couple years ago because, you know, they're different than the others. So when a new product comes out that's different from everything else, I just want to try it, especially because not that often do do things come out that are really truly different than everything else. There's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of things that are the same as other things with just a different company or a different name. But occasionally there does come out a product that's completely different from everything else. And those are the ones that I want to try. So will I order those sprays? I'm still undecided. Maybe 3 colors or something just to find out. Just to find out. So once I had a whole bunch of different colorful papers, I decided it was time to start die cutting. This die is from inlovearts.com. It is a company that sells dies, metal dies for really cheap. They're thin metal dies. I mean, these things are cheap. This one came with 3 other dies in a set, and the other 3 have tabs, so you could make a 1, 2, 3 tab. The tabs are in different areas along there. And then this one just has a scallop, and I thought it was interesting. It'd be fun to make a whole book with the little scallop pages so that you have some extra interest in your book. And so I cut all my pages out with this particular die, and then now I'm just measuring, and I made the cover and the back cover out of watercolor paper that I cut just like a 1/4 of an inch larger than those little scalloped pages. And then I'm using the die to mark where I need to punch. And I'm using a crocodile punch to just punch it's probably an 1/8 inch punch, maybe. 1/8 inch, yeah, probably 1/8 inch punch. So that it will line up and then I can put all the pages inside of it. So that's what I was doing there. I have 10 pages, and I put this in the order it should be rather than the order it actually happened. The the back cover, I had 2 pieces that I was going to make the back cover out of that were watercolor paper, and then all the other paper is Dick Blick mixed media paper. All the pages, but I accidentally cut the back piece the wrong size for the cover. I don't know what I did. I was cutting it with my guillotine cutter. And so I ended up making it into a page and then just making another watercolor piece and doing that same, putting some gesso on it and spraying it. So you saw that at the beginning. You saw those pages at the beginning. I also needed one more interior page to make it 10 because I only had 9. So now I'm decorating the front. These are my little stickers that I sprayed with the sprays. Those are actually sprayed with Glimmer Mist, which is a mica spray that was made by Tattered Angels Company, which was underneath Canvas Corp brands. That company's been purchased by a different owner, and I don't know. I assume they're still making the sprays, but the name of the company is something different. It's not Canvas Corp brands anymore. I'd have to go figure it out, but I mean, there's so many sprays. There's sprays with mica in. There's sprays without mica. There's distress, grungier sprays, and then there's that new gloss spray. There's so many types of sprays. Peg was using one today on the live show that you can spray on fabric and then you tumble dry it. It's called tumble dye or tumble something. You put the fabric in the dryer and it sets it, and then it becomes dyed fabric. And that's something that she had from a long time ago, and they're pretty colors. So don't stress too much about what spray you're using. Just get some ideas about combining sprays and doing resists and using stencils from the show today. So then these little envelopes were sent to me by a viewer in Happy Mail, and each one has letters in it, uppercase and lowercase. So I'm just going through and finding the dies that say Butterfly Journal, which is I'm going to put on the front of my journal. And if you have dies, say you have dies and you just want to cut some dies to use in the future, cut them out of white cardstock because you can always change them to a different color using sprays, which is really easy, or you could also use acrylic paint and just sponge them. And she did send me all these letters that are in these little envelopes are white, and then I can change them to whatever color I want. Rather than thinking, oh, I got to go get some purple cardstock because I need, to cut dies that are purple or whatever. Just use your sprays or your acrylic paints to change them after you've cut them. If you have white stock, cut everything out of white. It's smart. So I've got some black glimmer mist that I'm spraying these letters with. I got a little bit crazy. It was very thick. And then another thing that I like to do with sprays is I like to take the lid off carefully so you don't spill it. Don't set it down, just hold it in your hand. But then it has a little plastic thing inside that just flicks really nice, and you can make really nice splatter with sprays. Even if the sprayer won't work, you can always make splatters. So I do that a lot when I have sprays out. So here I am sealing everything because now I don't remember which sprays I used. Were they waterproof or not? I don't know. So there was probably a combination. So I'm using clear gesso from Liquitex and a brayer, and I'm just covering the page with the clear gesso, rolling it out, making sure it's fully covered in a thin layer on both sides so that all these pages will now be sealed and I won't have to worry when I'm working on them in the future as to whether it's water soluble or not. So the last thing, of course, is assembly. I'm going to use some waxed linen threads that I've received from a viewer at some point in Happy Mail, and then also one thread of embroidery floss that I bought at the dollar store, and tie it together with these little strings, and I think it looks really cool when it's done. If you're enjoying this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment or a question below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Of course, turn on your notification bells so that you know when a new video is up. And you can pin this to Pinterest in one of your folders or share it on Facebook. All those things help my channel be found by other people because it tells YouTube that my stuff is valuable, that somebody else might want to watch it and they might suggest it. So I'm putting the strings through all the way through the little holes. There's 4 holes that are punched. And then I'm not tying it really tight. I'm like tying the knot a little bit away from the binding so that this will be able to open flat. If I tied it up really tight, then it wouldn't, open properly. So as you can see, I can open these and have them completely flat if I want to do a 2-page butterfly spread. So then the last thing I did before I shut the camera down is to decorate the back cover. And I'm using a punch for that, a little butterfly punch. Punched out some little butterflies, put them across, and glued them down, put some shadows on with a Stabilo, put some black around the edge with the Memento pad, and then I drew on their little bodies. And I also added Wink of Stella sparkles to it, which you can't really see in the video, but just like little really super fine sparkly. So here comes your close-ups, and that's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.